Okay, this is Joseph from JohnTheHutDweller. There's a movie on here. It's called A Lamp in the Dark, and it's kind of a documentary style shot with reenactment footage about supposedly about the story of Christianity. And it's funny because I didn't know. Well, I won't go into that. It's really strange in that the it tells the basic myth of what you usually hear in Protestant circles and evangelical circles. I shouldn't be saying Protestant because High Church Anglicans, well, I don't even think they know, not the laity at least. Um, they have this idea that as soon as the last apostle died, then the Christians were getting persecuted by this Roman entity, and then everything stops, and then you wake up basically 1500 years later at the Reformation with people finding the Bible. Well, the people in this movie, it actually says in this movie, this is lamp in the dark, or the lamp in the darkness. It was called the period that we now call the Dark Ages. It was called the Dark Ages because nobody read the Word of God. To say something like that, to say something as bold as that, is to show your extreme ignorance, and to put it in a movie. This is almost. I mean, I didn't want to watch it because it's almost like voyeuristic watching something like that. It's very strange. I guess it's such a temptation of mine. That and Anatoly Fomenko's new chronology, it just amazes me. You have these you have these people. I mean, their concept of the past is so strange. At least for me, it is. I mean, the movie presents it as, well, the Christians, as if there was one unified belief called Christianity after the apostles. Yeah, there was. Um, but the experience of that group is probably the most important period in history, almost more important than the apostles and Jesus themselves. I mean, for impact at least. What these people did was the great. I mean, this is the greatest period of martyrs, and it goes right up to Diocletian. And the utter lack of respect that they have for them. They claim that that group was the persecuted group, and that Christianity basically was stamped out at that point. But simultaneously say, oh, but it became the state religion, and they started copying and making all these manuscripts. I mean, this is what you have to believe. You have to believe they poured out all these. I mean, they translated the Bible from Greek into Latin, and they did that because Latin was universal, just like why the New Testament was written in Greek. It wasn't written in Aramaic. It was written in Greek to let the whole world know. Everybody could read it. If you had written in a barbarian vernacular, the next tribe over wouldn't even I mean, nobody would understand. They written in Latin because that was the accepted language, and there were versions that were translated into other languages. Um, the Aryans made a copy of the Visigoth. They used the Visigoth and Vandal. They put it in Germanic. It wasn't. It was the complete opposite of what they're trying to say. Yeah, it got sealed in Latin. The same thing happened with Slavonic. Cyril and Methodius went to the Slavs, and the Slavs didn't have a written language, so they used characters from the Greek alphabet to create what we call the Cyrillic alphabet, so they could give it to the people, so the people would understand it, so they could sing it not in Greek but in their own tongue. Now today, Slavonic is in the church, and nobody speaks Slavonic anymore. It's a dead language. But it is the parent language of Ukrainian, Russian, and a lot of the Slavic languages. That's like saying, well, they put Slavonic in there so the people wouldn't understand. No, it was done for the opposite purpose, and it's old, and now it's the opposite. And that's just what happened with Latin too. The Dark Ages happened because Rome fell to the barbarians in 415, and it lasted that way. People mark it up till either the Battle of Tours, Charles Martel, or the crowning of Charlemagne in 800. That's the Dark Ages. And people were probably more Christian back then. And you had the rise of Islam, you had the barbarian Vikings, and even proto-Vikings like Vandals and Visigoths coming and just destroying everything. I don't know, the Vikings actually didn't start until about 300 years after Charlemagne, or 200 years after Charlemagne had died. But these marauding bands coming down, killing her. I mean, medicine was gone. Most people, boom, became illiterate. There was no schools. There was no civilization. There was no ruling societies. You had people just surviving on their own. It was complete anarchy. And that's where we get the medieval period from, because out of that rose up kings and barbarians, and everybody was all mixed in. I mean, you had cultures clashing. That's when we see the rise of the dukes in Italy. And to misunderstand that whole period is to misunderstand Western civilization, of how we got from Rome to the Renaissance. It's to just trample on everything. And I don't understand how anything could be in context to you then. If you read the Bible, you don't understand what happened between that 2,000-year period and you. How could you possibly think to know you know anything about Christianity or the Bible? It seems strange to me. No, I don't say God or Jesus. I do believe people can know God and Jesus in a spiritual sense. But to actually know anything about applying the gospel to the world, I don't think you can organize a church around that. You can certainly, individual people can do good acts. But you're flawed. You're still totally ignorant of a lot of things, and then out of your love of Christ, you go make a video where you are basically anti-Catholic. And I'm taking the assumption that you're actually a good, devout Christian, not just a bigot. That's how you get to that. But it just seems strange to me. Fundamental it's disunderstanding, not misunderstanding. Oh my gosh. All right, peace to everybody out there.